Tonight on Reporting Scotland, that fire at Heathrow causes huge disruption for passengers here. Flights to and from Scottish airports were cancelled, while some passengers found themselves stranded when planes were diverted.
We did get the impression that we're very, very lucky to get a hired car because a lot of them have already been hired out.
And we're in Scotland.
Yeah, I've always wanted to come to Glasgow, but not under these circumstances.
Some flights are expected to resume this evening. Also in tonight's programme, a 76-year-old man will stand trial next year accused of murdering a dog walker in Perthshire. We report from Mull, where key workers are facing a housing crisis as holiday homes push up property prices.
I feel it's time to take a rest from the game that I've served for 43 years.
Peter Mullen plays legendary Liverpool manager Bill Shankly as the actor returns to the stage for the first time in 30 years. Hello, I'm Sally Magnuson. Welcome to Friday's programme. Yes, a fire at an electrical substation at Heathrow Airport has caused huge disruption for passengers throughout the day, with the cancellation of all flights. There was a knock-on effect on services in and out of Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Inverness and Glasgow. Heathrow is expected to resume some flights this evening, with priority given to those that were diverted to Europe. Our news correspondent Jamie McIver reports.
The effects of Heathrow's closure are being felt far and wide. Some of the Tartan Army in Greece for last night's football were left stranded.
Unfortunately, we've been able to book on another flight that has come at a bit of an expense, around about €500. And even when we were sort of filling in our details, the chap next to us who joined the queue, even by the seconds that we were filling out our form, the price had gone up by a further €100. So flights and seats are in demand from Athens.
Closer to home, the closure had an impact too. A number of international flights landed unexpectedly in Glasgow. These ladies were returning from New Orleans and faced an unexpected 3-hour road trip home to Blackpool.
We did get the impression that we're very, very lucky to get a hired car because a lot of them have already been hired out.
And we're in Scotland.
Yeah, I've always wanted to come to Glasgow, but not under these circumstances.
Get to Manchester, find a hotel.
We find a ride. Where's Manchester?
Some faced more complicated problems, including travellers from overseas.
I'm from New Jersey, and we're supposed to be going to Helsinki. It was a hop into London and then over to Helsinki, but we got routed here.
We can't make the flight up to the Arctic, then we probably will divert back to the States or maybe stay here and put something together.
Scotland.
Some were luckier. Their diverted flight actually meant a shorter trip back home.
I was meant to fly to Newcastle tonight, so actually it's great for me.
Many fly from Scotland to Heathrow for international connections. If a flight covered by British law is cancelled, airlines have a choice: provide a refund or a seat on another flight.
Your rights are absolutely clear. The airline has to get you to your destination as soon as possible, including paying a fortune on other airlines to get you there. In addition, they're supposed to supply a hotel and all your meals until you can be flown. In practice, well, in this scale of disruption, it's every traveller for themselves.
Even once Heathrow reopens, there will be a backlog to deal with, and the ripple effect could last for days.
And Jamie is at Glasgow Airport for us this evening. Jamie, hopes of at least some resumption of flights at Heathrow this evening.
Indeed, Sally, and just to bring you up to date, flights from Heathrow are now starting to resume, and Heathrow says it will prioritise passengers who were diverted to European destinations. Now, Heathrow says it hopes to run what it describes as a full operation tomorrow. Now, it's one thing for Heathrow itself to be running a full operation, quite another question when it comes to the potential impact on individual services. Some planes are going to be in the wrong place, of course, after all the disruption today. So here's the best advice for anyone who's due to fly to Heathrow tomorrow. It's simply to check with your airline. In general terms, you should only turn up at the airport if either your airline tells you to or you know your flight's going to operate.
Jamie McIver, thank you very much indeed. A 76-year-old man will stand trial next year accused of murdering a dog walker in Perthshire. Prosecutors allege that David Campbell shot 65-year-old Brian Lowe near Aberfeldy on the 16th of February last year. Mr. Lowe's death was initially thought to be medical related, but a later examination revealed that the retired groundsman had been shot. Graham Ogston was at the High Court in Glasgow.
David Campbell is accused of murdering Brian Lowe by shooting him on a remote country path in February last year, having previously shown ill will and malice towards him. It's alleged that Mr. Campbell also disabled CCTV cameras as a property in Aberfeldy before the incident in an attempt to hide his whereabouts. He's also accused of attempting to defeat the ends of justice by disposing of the alleged murder weapon, in this case a shotgun, as well as an air gun, and having replacement tyres fitted to an electric bike. He's also accused of 5 charges of breach of the peace dating back to 1995 and possessing an air rifle without a licence. Mr. Campbell denies all the charges. The trial, which is expected to last 3 weeks, will take place here at the High Court in Glasgow next February.
SNP veteran Fergus Ewing will not stand for the party at next year's Holyrood election, but he might run as an independent. The MSP for Inverness and Nairn is unhappy with the party over the slow progress made in dualling the A9 and A96 roads. Our political correspondent Phil Sim joins me now. What's been going on here, Phil?
Well, Fergus Ewing is part of an SNP dynasty, a family that's played a huge part in their history. He's been a member for over 50 years, he's been an MSP for 26 years, and he was a minister for 14 years. That's why it was so notable that when he went to the backbenches in 2021, he frequently clashed with the party leadership. He was a fierce critic of the partnership with the Scottish Greens. He's spoken up for business, particularly in the oil and gas industry, and he's been a champion of Highland issues where he feels that the government hasn't been delivering for his patch, and that is what has led to his decision today. He says the SNP is no longer acting as a party for all of Scotland, and we can hear a little more from him now.
I simply cannot defend the indefensible. The party that has been part of my life, my soul for half a century, has failed to deliver on key promises for the Highlands, for better, safer roads during the A9 and the A96, and it's a matter of honour.
There was actually an update from Transport Scotland this afternoon about progress on the A96 project, so that's something. We've also had a response from John Swinney. He says he's sorry to hear that Fergus Ewing won't be standing for the SNP. He called him a faithful servant to his constituents who's made a great contribution to the work of Parliament and the government. But he did have a bit of a response to the criticism too. He said that he does intend to be a First Minister for all of Scotland. The crucial thing now is what Fergus Ewing does next, because he says he may stand as an independent candidate if significant progress is not made on those road projects. If that does happen, it could have a big impact on the election up in Inverness.
Phil Sim at Holyrood, thank you very much indeed. When they opened 2 years ago, they were described as multi-million-pound experiments in an alternative to traditional women's prisons. The Lilias Centre in Glasgow and its sister unit, Bella, in Dundee, are the first of their kind in the UK, known as community custody units, which aim to tackle reoffending through rehabilitation. Katrina Renton visited the Lilias and met some women preparing for release.
This is where I live. This is a room in the house I was allocated.
This does not look or feel like a prison. There are no bars on the windows. There's no barbed wire. The women at Lilias live in houses. Their rooms have en-suites.
It's great to have a real bed. I slept in a jail bed for 15 years, so that was deluxe when I came. I slept in the first week I was here.
Rona moved here in December 2023. She had already served 15 years of her life sentence for murder for running over a woman in her car. She's due before the parole board later this year, and she does not downplay the seriousness of her crime.
I'm full of remorse. I live with remorse every day for what happened that day. It took me a long time. I punished myself for a long, long time.
What would you say some people might say when they see, people that have been sent to jail for murder, living in nice conditions? They might think, well, that's, it's not fair. What would you say to them?
Well, I've done 15 years of my sentence in a closed jail. It's my time to move on now. I waited a long time to get here, and it's me a year up in Lilies, and it's me now out working, so I'm on the elevator now. I can see the light at the end of this tunnel. Here we have tins, we've got loads of tins of soups, we've got packets of soup.
Also to help her prepare leaving custody, Rona has just started a work placement. She gets the bus twice a week to this food bank.
I was quite shocked when I took my first bus journey and everybody's on phones, everybody. Well, I started in the food bank. My friends had worked in it previous, and everybody that's came to these places love it, you know.
When Lilius and its sister unit Bella in Dundee opened, they were described by the Scottish Prison Service as UK firsts. You might say a multi-million-pound experiment. And it's in the interest of the women, their families, and the rest of the country that this approach works.
Lilius is there to support long-term prisoners like Rona needing the end of their sentence and those serving short sentences.
I'm just looking after my own self.
Amy is serving a short-term sentence for assault.
I was in Pomont for a few months in Stirling before that. Compared to the past 2 jails I've been in, this has been like a breath of fresh air, really. It takes away like the greyness and the dullness, so like I'm this big bad person that I don't deserve anything good, or I don't like, do you know what I mean? Because us as people, like we beat ourselves up enough, and I think that like that's another part of our problem sometimes. Like we go back and we don't think we deserve a good life and things like that, and then things escalate and you do things that you probably shouldn't do.
Lilius's approach is about supporting the individual.
What Lilius gives women is the opportunity to take stock of where they are and feel supported in, you know, moving forward with their own plans for the future. And that could be employment opportunities for some, it could be intensive work with the recovery services, or it could be engaging with occupational therapy or a psychologist. And our job is to link them in with the services and supports that they require to ensure that they don't come back to us. So time will tell whether it, you know, it is actually working or not.
Are you looking forward to coming back out? Are you scared?
Back into the world. To say I'm no scared would be a lie. I'm a bit anxious, but I know God will make a way for me. I hold that in my heart now.
Katrina Renton reporting Scotland at the Lilius Centre in Glasgow.
Some of the day's other stories now. Firefighters have been tackling 2 wildfires to the south of Inverness. The larger one has burnt through grass and scrubland alongside the B861 between Inverness and Inverarney. Firefighters have been out tackling the flames and say they're making good progress. Meanwhile, firefighters have extinguished a grass fire near Bowling in West Dunbartonshire. It comes as an extreme risk warning for wildfires takes effect across Scotland. A climate change activist who chained himself to pipes containing explosive hydrocarbons at the oil refinery at Grangemouth has been jailed. 49-year-old Samuel Griffiths from London was one of a number of activists from the group Just Stop Oil who attended protests at the site in July 2023. Rural Scotland is facing an affordable housing crisis, with many communities struggling to attract workers. The Isle of Mull is a prime example of the challenges young families and key workers are facing. Holiday homes are driving up property prices, making it difficult for locals to get on the housing ladder. Ian Hamilton went to Mull to investigate the problems and explore potential solutions.
Places like Tobermory here on Mull might be an ideal location to put down roots. But trying to find accommodation is a whole other challenge.
We were renting in Tobermory a tiny little 2-bedroom flat.
Rebecca McLennan works for a charity supporting young families on the island.
For young families like ourselves, it's just not affordable to be able to buy a house. And then those that do come up, there's such a competition for affordable houses, it kind of boosts that price up even more.
And your job involves you working with a lot of young families. How often does this topic come up?
A lot, actually. We've recently had a family who have lost their house and have kind of gone through that process of trying to find somewhere else. It's really difficult and it's heartbreaking to kind of see young families who put a lot into island life kind of really struggling with their housing situation.
Rebecca and her family are now renting a converted farm building. The landowner was only too aware of the island's housing crisis.
We've created 5 new homes here. We did it through the Rural Housing Fund, which gave us a 60% grant. And when we opened up for applications, we had 45 completed applications for the 5 properties.
New starter homes are being built here in Tobermory. They're being funded by the council and the Scottish Government. And they'll be run by the Mull and Iona Community Trust.
It was originally called a Key Worker Accommodation Project. We've dropped the key because we believe that, particularly on a small island like this, every person that works here is important. Everybody's a key worker.
The Scottish Government said that they're committed to delivering 110,000 affordable homes by 2032, with at least 10% of those in rural and island areas.
What do you think needs to happen to try and solve some of the problems?
We need a miracle, I think. We need a significant increase in houses being built for affordable rent. Even those that come up in the private sector, very rarely, they're just not affordable.
Rebecca McLennan there, ending that piece from Ian Hamilton. Amy's joined us now to tell us what's coming up on News at 7.
Hi Sally, so we're going to have much more from Ian Hamilton and his special report from Mull, but on the programme tonight we're going to be looking at just the effect that the lack of affordable housing is actually having on businesses, and some of them actually unable to maintain operations just because workers cannot afford the housing. So we'll be looking at that in more detail, and of course we'll be talking about the situation at Heathrow, and we'll be joined live by probably the busiest man today, you would imagine.
He has
Simon
been
Calder.
on the whole way through the day, hasn't he?
He might be sleeping by the time he gets in here, Sally, but he says he'll be coming on the programme live. So all of that from 7.
Thanks very much indeed, Amy. Tonight's main news again. A fire at Heathrow causes huge disruption for passengers. Flights to and from Scottish airports were cancelled, while some passengers found themselves stranded when planes were diverted.
And still to come in the sport, a very familiar face returns to Scottish football as Dunfermline appoint their new manager.
Scottish actor Peter Mullen is a familiar face on the screen, but tonight he'll step on the stage again for the first time in 3 decades. He's playing the legendary football manager Bill Shankly in a new play in Liverpool. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean caught up with him in rehearsals.
Well, for the public, in general, football is an entertainment. For the fanatics, it's just the same as me. It's life or death.
Bill Shankly was a modest, hard-working manager from Ayrshire who transformed the fortunes of Liverpool Football Club and is still celebrated decades on.
And didn't I tell you, Yugoslavia would be no good? They play for fun, not for keeps. Like, they'll take your money, but if they beat you, they give you it back.
Now he's at the heart of this much-anticipated stage show, whose cast of 52 includes some well-known faces, among them Peter Mullen, who's returning to the stage after 30 years to take on the role of Shankly.
Vocally, we're very similar. We've got the same timbre in our voices. So I've not had to do a lot of work on that. I've had to do a fair bit of work on his voice because of his enunciation, the way he speaks.
And no football club was ever successful without hard work.
He's funny as all get out, dry as a bone. He does a little piece about how if a player doesn't give his full commitment, he should be in jail.
I'd be hard on him. If I could, I'd put him in jail.
Because the way he says it is with such conviction, it's really hard to tell if he's joking or not.
The play follows Shankly's life before and after his shock resignation.
I feel it's time to take a rest from the game that I've served for 43 years.
And Peter Mullen hopes it will introduce him to a whole new generation, whether they're football fans or not.
And it's not demanding that you know football, it's simply demanding of you to accept that he's a fanatic. So in order to understand him, you have to understand what it is he's fanatical about. And by understanding that, you then get to understand his world and you get to understand the world that he was in.
Polly McLean, reporting Scotland, Liverpool.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Looks great.
Football, the Scottish team made it back.
Yes,
did
the
they,
flights
from
didn't
Athens?
affect
Yeah.
them, and they're back because they're playing Greece again on Sunday. Only half time in the tie, Sally, but a big result.
Great.
Thanks very much. Hello there. Well, despite Scotland coming away from Greece with a win and a clean sheet, head coach Steve Clarke is warning that their Nations League playoff tie is not dead yet. If the Scots prevail, it means that they retain their status in the top tier of the competition, and a mature performance in Athens has provided real hope for finishing off the job in Sunday's second leg at Hampden. Kenny Crawford has more.
You just want to do your best, and whatever the manager wants from you, you just do to your best capability. I've played pretty much everywhere for Scotland, so I know my roles now.
Yeah, that was a tough second half. Lose my voice a bit. The amount I've been shouting at the boys in front of me to try and keep them out.
You need to show that sort of that dirty side of the game, the running, the tackling, the blocking, heading.
No, it's going to be a tough game. This game's not dead yet. No way.
Neil Lennon says he wants to bring an exciting brand of football to Dunfermline Athletic after being appointed as their new manager on a short-term contract until the end of the season. Lennon left Scottish football in 2021, managing Celtic across 2 spells, winning 5 league titles. In his time with Hibernian, he led the club to promotion back to the top flight in his first season before steering the club to European football the following campaign. Now, it's 100 years since Murrayfield Stadium opened, and celebrations have been taking place at Scotland's home of rugby. Sheila McLaren went along to join the occasion and meet some greats from over the years.
It's a record Murrayfield crowd.
100 years and counting. Some of the greatest rugby players to have ever graced the game have run out at this famous stadium. It's seen many changes over the years, and today some of those who've played in a Scotland shirt here joined in its birthday celebration.
Even now, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. I just think we were so lucky and so privileged to have played here. Some great games, played with some fantastic players, made some great friendships over absolute decades.
The inaugural match took place here on the 21st of March 1925 when Scotland triumphed over England to win their first Grand Slam. A century on, there have been just 2 more slams, including one in 1984.
And Scotland have done it!
I always felt it was for the country, all the Scottish rugby supporters. So yeah, and you can imagine the celebrations afterwards.
Can you remember the scenes from the stands here?
Yes. At that time, all the kids could run out the pitch, so it was very difficult to get off the pitch. I remember that fine, and of course it was a great dressing room afterwards.
It's not just the men's team who've played here. Scotland's most capped player, Donna Kennedy, was part of the first women's side to play at Murrayfield.
I think it was massive. You know, you always dream that you want to play on the hallowed turf in Murrayfield, and that was the first time we played against Sweden, which we won the game. But yeah, it was amazing experience. But coming out again with all those legends round about, it was just fantastic.
Today's event was also a nod to the future, with young players invited to join the party. What would it be like to be here one day to actually play rugby for real?
It would be unreal. It would be a massive accomplishment. Even thinking about it is crazy.
Hopefully this 100-year-old stadium will provide memorable moments for generations to come. Sheila McLaren, reporting Scotland.
Some great pictures there, Sally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to say as well, the Scotland women's team start their Six Nations campaign tomorrow, so a big weekend for them.
Excellent. Thanks very much indeed, Lewis. Let's see what the weather's up to with Chris. Oh, it's beautiful.
I think we've been spoilt this week, haven't we, with the sunshine and blue
You're going to tell
sky.
us it's all going, aren't you?
Yes, sorry. A big change on the way this weekend, Sally, with some rain as well. Thank you very much indeed. Good evening to you. Yes, we've had some decent spells of sunshine around today, but also a lot of cloud, actually. Having said that, it's actually been the warmest day of the year so far here in Scotland. 19.1 Celsius at Kinlochhew, 19 in Inverness. You can see tomorrow, though, several parts of the country seeing temperatures a good bit down. Now, through the course of this evening and overnight, we start to see some outbreaks of rain moving in from the south. That'll turn quite heavy and persistent for a time. Initially, though, it's dry and then the cloud builds and the rain arrives as we head through towards the early hours, working its way from the southwest towards the northeast. It's frost-free. Temperatures in towns and cities 5 to 8 Celsius, but still windy around the north coast and across the Northern Isles. Tomorrow morning, though, it's a cloudy and a wet start with that heavy rain initially. It will tend to ease off as we head through towards lunchtime and the afternoon, but we're left with a legacy of cloud. Now that will break at times and there'll be some bright or sunny spells coming through, but that will likely trigger some heavy and slow-moving showers which could come with the odd rumble of thunder. Temperatures around about 10 degrees in the east, in the west up to around 13 or 14, and towards the islands once again it will be a little bit cooler with that showery rain and those strong winds still with us in Shetland. As we head in towards tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, another pulse of wet weather moving westward now across the country. So it's another cloudy and wet night overnight tomorrow night. Once again, frost-free, 5 to 7 Celsius as the overnight low. But that's how we start the day on Sunday. With that rain, it will clear away, allowing this ridge of high pressure to move in. So Sunday, it's an improving picture. Initially, though, it's cloudy and wet with that overnight rain still with us. It's running in towards that high pressure, though, so tending to fizzle out. And that means it's an increasingly dry picture through the afternoon, but an overcast one. Best of the sunshine across the Hebrides, a north wind developing here. Temperatures down a notch further compared with Saturday's values. So for the game at Hampden on Sunday, likely dry at kick-off, fairly cloudy, the odd spot of light rain or drizzle, temperatures of around 11 degrees. And then beyond Sunday into next week, that high pressure with us initially, but the weather fronts move in once again as we head through sort of midweek onwards, turning things wet. So for next week, for many areas, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday dry, bit of sunshine, turning cloudy and wet as we head through towards the end of the week. Always a chance of some rain in the far northwest and temperatures around about average. That's the forecast for now.
It was nice while it lasted, wasn't it? Thanks very much. Alistair Fraser will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. Do join him if you can, but until then, from everyone on the team, good evening.